Welcome back to another episode of Life Along the Streetcar, where we talk about the things happening in our urban core from A Mountain to the University of Arizona. We talk about social, cultural, and economic developments that are shaping our urban core. And today, as always, I'm always excited for my guests, but today I've got a couple of superheroes from downtown radio that I've been looking up to since the day I joined the station. And finally, after 8 years, they agreed that I was worthy enough to come onto the show. We have Hope and Bo. I'm just gonna call you Awesome, because that's who you are on downtown radio. Hope and Bo Awesome.
Very cool.
Welcome into our humble little Life Along the Studio show here.
Oh, happy to be here.
Awesome.
You have been on downtown radio since pretty much the beginning, right?
Yeah, pretty close to it. It was an odd happenstance for me because I was actually working in commercial radio for KFMA here in Tucson, and I had been doing radio for, at that point, about 25 years, both from a public standpoint and then a commercial standpoint as well. And I had this moment where I was not having fun, believe it or not having fun making money doing radio. And I stepped back and I said to myself, what would turn this around for myself? And the idea basically was I was going to take all this stuff that I had learned about radio over the last 20 years and build a show from the ground up using all these things that I had learned. And because, in commercial radio, it's very much a job where you just show up, you say the words, it's all built into place for you. And whereas in public radio, you have your own, you
have to create your own words.
But you kind of lack the structure as to so I took what I thought was effective in commercial radio. Not that I wanted to be commercial, but there is some things that make them successful and build my own show. And so I started building the Arizona 411. And my idea was I was just going to host it online somewhere. I wasn't going to put it on radio. I wasn't.
Oh, so you came up with the show before you found downtown radio?
Yes.
Okay.
And because my idea was that I didn't want anybody else to tell me what to do on it. I wanted to, like I said, build it from the ground up, build all the audio images for it, and create the structure for the show so that it was ran the way I thought would be most effective and then fun to do. And so, I started doing the show. It was really bare bones, and the first question I asked myself was, can I even do 2 hours worth of Arizona-made music? That was the first hurdle, and sure enough, that was a lot easier, than anything else. And so I think I did it for about a year where I was just hosting it online in random places. I couldn't podcast it because I didn't have licensing to the music or anything like that. And so it was just kind of in these obscure links, being shared on the internet and things like that. And then I saw downtown radio starting up. I approached the guy that was starting it, and I said, hey, I got this show that I've been doing on just hosting online, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in having it on there. Because to me, terrestrial radio is still a really neat space to be in. And it's far more significant to me in terms of the universal experience that people have when they listen to the radio. And so I had spent my early time at KXCI. I knew very well how difficult it was to get on air over there. And so when I saw this low watt station thing popping up, I hit the guy up and I said, hey, would you be interested? And he said, absolutely, that'd be great. And so, that's how I wound up at downtown radio. And then at that point, I completely stopped hosting it anywhere. And so I just made it.
And that was 2016, 2015?
Yeah, about 2016.
Yeah, because I think the show, it started, and then you guys were one of the very first shows. I don't know if you were there when it first turned on, but...
Yeah, no, we weren't there when it first turned on, but I was still there when the original studios were all put together.
Yeah, you were at the old place. My first work with downtown radio was moving from that old place to the new place. It was like I showed up for my, hey, welcome aboard. grab a box.
We need to.
We're moving.
So, were you involved? Hope, were you involved with the original online version?
Not
of this?
at this time, no. So he's had lots of experience in radio, but it was in 2020 during the pandemic. He was looking to onboard more interviews, and there's just a lot of coordination that goes with that. So that's where I was like, hey, I can do that. So
Do you want to do that for another show? Just curious. No, okay.
yeah, you never know.
Well, and I'll tell you, Tom, it was awesome. It was really cool because I quit KFMA in 2018. I was doing downtown radio and working in commercial radio at the same time, which people in commercial radio thought I was an idiot for doing local radio, because to them they're like, if you're not getting paid,
Right, why do it? Right.
You know, and people then in community radio thought I was so amazing because I was working in commercial radio. Anyways,
Like, you get paid to do this.
yeah, exactly. You know, and to be honest, I quit there in 2018, 2 years before the pandemic, because it was becoming more of a job than it was, and so I quit there to spend more time to do this stuff and then work on and spend time with the family. But I've got, you know, I've spent my life networking in Arizona in this entertainment space in various genres and things like that, and in radio, and so I had an opportunity in 2020 when all the studios. So I quit KFMA in 2018. That quit was justified when the pandemic came, because they went in and they fired everybody. So all these people that thought I was crazy for quitting all lost their jobs anyways, because without ad revenue, they just didn't have any way to pay anybody. So, well, at the same time, there's a station up in Phoenix that's kind of like downtown radio, but with a much larger reach, you know, and they're the alternative rock space. And I was friends online with the lady who hosted the morning show there, and she said, hey, I've got a question for you. Would you be willing to host the show for a while I've got some stuff I need to do? And so I said, you know what, I'll give that a shot. And so I produced everything at the house. And during this time, like I said, studios all shut down. So suddenly my setup became very valuable because we were able to operate. And so I had all this stuff going on, hoping the kids are, you know, hanging out, because, you know, it's an open studio at the house. And I looked at Hope and I said, hey, is there any way I can get your help on a few things? And she was like, I guess, I've never done this before. And then sure enough, she took to it like water. And then eventually it was like, hey, because I had always been afraid to book interviews because I didn't want to commit to something that I couldn't follow through on, and it's a lot of coordination. But once she said, yeah, I could help you with that, then it became, okay, cool, you can focus on that, I can focus on talking to the guests and stuff like that. Then it was like, hey ho, would you like to talk on air? You know, and she's like,
Just like, no.
yeah, like, are you crazy? You know, because talking on air is really intimidating. Hearing your own voice is a really intimidating thing, and so
get over it at some point. But it's the way first time you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's.
You're like, this doesn't even sound like me.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what you sound like.
the show.
We think it sounds great.
The show opened up so much at that point because of the fact that it became less of a guy, you know, talking just to you, and it became more like you got to listen in on a conversation between two people that were talking about stuff that you found interesting.
You know, that's what I've really come to enjoy about the show is, first of all, your collective knowledge. I mean, you both clearly love music. Does that, like, obviously, you know, Bo, for you that goes back, but Hope, where did, like, was music a part of your?
Yes, I've always been a big music enthusiast. I mean, I was like the teenager that went to sleep with their iPod in their ears, as crazy as that sounds, but
even crazier, I was the guy that went to bed with the Discman. So like the iPod.
Oh man, that's some dedication there. Set up the CD so it doesn't skip. But and then I've always loved lyrics, and then with the local art, so much of it feels so meaningful, you know. So once I got involved in that space, I was blown away at the art. I was blown away at the artists, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and one of the signatures, and I don't know if this comes from you're getting comfortable with being on the air is your bell.
Oh, yes.
And I know when I was talking about the interview, he said that you were a little nervous about doing it because this is a new first experience for you. So to help you out, I wanted to get you your crutch here.
Oh, very good.
And so if you feel the need, you can.
Nice.
All right.
I think that's one of those iconic sounds from the Arizona 411 when there's some good things happening. We hear that bell going off there. So I just thought maybe that felt a little more at home. So.
Oh, thank you. It's very nice. So yeah, the bells came about because when he did his radio at KFMA, they had a bell.
Okay.
And then eventually we did our show, and so I got us bells, and that's how that came to be. So
the interviews that really elevated. I think going back to just for a moment where you talked about the structure, like there clearly is a professional structure to the way you do your show because you have that third set triple play, and you do it's every show you can sort of count on something at a certain time, and then the interviews that are coming up, and you really do a great job of interviewing these musicians. And I don't know, do you know them all? Like, how does?
So again, this is all where having the help and then also becoming a team became so evolutionary for the show, right? Like I said, just booking things, that's so time consuming. And then managing all that is so time consuming. Yeah. And then to think about having to get around to the interview. Well, once she was committed to taking care of so much stuff on, then I began thinking it's not just enough to just get them on there. Let's make it worth everybody's time, both the artist and ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the listeners, excuse me.
Yeah, they're the listeners, right? Whatever.
Right.
That's why I look at my show. As long as I'm happy, I'm good.
So then it became, though, for myself, like challenge yourself, though, to make this conversation good and worthwhile. And what we figured out was that coming up with the conversation kind of guideline or framework before we talk to them and then sending it over to them makes it sound as if, like we've already been sitting around and hashing this out. And I promise you the length of the interview that you hear is about the length of the phone call that we have to make because...
It doesn't sound like you edit much. It sounds like it goes...
That's what it is. And, some of that kind of came from an old idea. I had attended a taping of Letterman years back and I didn't know it, but they do the show twice, and then they clip together all the best parts. So you know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
And they do the interviews twice, and that gives the guest an opportunity to chew it over. And I think that's cool, but I didn't want to do my interviews twice.
And no one's got time for that.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, if we just shoot over the structure for it, and then that way they're not coming in because early on. Hope will attest, we'd be doing some interviews and there'd be like this pause.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Like I didn't expect that to, or whatever. And so now when people, when we get them on the phone to do our interviews, they're extremely like comfortable that because everybody's nervous, even though it's a community radio show.
Once it's out there, it doesn't matter where it starts. Once it's out there, it doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So
when you put something on recording, it's and if you say the wrong thing, it will come back to
it'll haunt you.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems too like the first take, people seem to be so authentic, and that's kind of what's exciting too. Is like if you do 2 takes, you lose some of the. I don't know how to explain the spontaneity. Yeah, the magic of it. So I think that first take is
when we first started, we would do like 60-minute interviews, and then we would edit them down to fit the show. And after a while, I realized 2 things: one, that's incredibly time consuming. Oh yeah. But then 2, I'm portraying their words differently than maybe they intended because I'm putting them together in a different order. Now we try to go as much as possible with 1 take, the live,
That makes
the
sense.
gaffes and all, because those are part of that
It's-
genuine.
Yeah, capturing the personality and all that.
Yeah, especially when I ask the wrong questions and like, no, you have that completely wrong. Like, oh, okay.
Okay. No, I know.
Unlike the two of you, I don't do any research for this show. It's all spontaneity. How did you guys meet? Was it through music?
Do you want to tell, or do you? I feel like I tell this story pretty well, to be honest.
Tell a story.
Hope and I's day jobs are we both have worked in grocery stores our entire lives, basically. And I've worked for Fry's here in Tucson my entire life since I was 17 years old. And Hope has worked for various companies that have, serviced the grocery stores. And so when Hope was younger and I was much younger, I would see her vending bread and stuff like that. Yeah. And, of course, there's this beautiful girl over there. So one day, fast forward, to make this long story even longer, I'm shopping at the Fry's over on First and Roger, and I'm passing by this beautiful woman who's also shopping at Fry's on First and Roger, and she's on her cell phone. And I recognize her, and it's Hope. And I say, oh, hey, how's it going? And she gives me this look, and I could just feel her go, this guy's like trying to talk.
See, I don't remember it that way.
I'm like, oh, and I just kind of slunk away. And then I run into her at my store that I actually work at, and she's actually working. And we casually talk, and I'm like, and I explained to her, I'm like, yeah, I saw you over there, and I waved, and she was like, oh, no.
Yeah, I don't remember.
How do you remember? How do you remember this?
I feel like I was like, oh, hey, but I don't remember slinking away.
I think maybe Bo was just a little nervous, and so
100%.
he's projecting.
Yeah.
So you met through the grocery business. You found out you share this love for music, and then as we're kind of wrapping up here, the Arizona 411. It's all Arizona-made music. What was that impetus behind that? Why was it specifically just Arizona music, or not Tucson music, or not all music?
For myself, I had a good history with working with the hip-hop scene here in Tucson. And I was very much aware of the talent level of the hip-hop scene in Tucson. And so then I began to ask myself if that's the case. And then whilst I had that base in Tucson hip hop, I spent then the next, like I said, 20 years working in alternative commercial radio. So then I began exploring alternative rock in Arizona. Okay. And that was where the premise came from. And then instead of, because I know that there was a show on it's a legacy show on KXCI, locals only, and I was aware of it, but I always felt the show was very limited and very kind of closed off to the general public. And part of my commercial, education was like, let's open this up to as many people as possible. And so that's where, instead of it just being, Tucson, it became, let's cover the whole state. Yeah. And then at the end of it, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if every state had a show like this? And then it would make it real easy for people to be like, what the hell's going on in
Where's
this
the local art
here, Exactly.
Well, there's things about that too that I've learned a lot about Arizona music in general. Tucson, I think we're incredibly blessed with talent.
Yeah.
But
No, absolutely.
when you add in the rest of the state, it's just, I don't know if every state compares, but it just seems like we have a really deep connection with the arts and the music.
I think so too, and like I said, I just expressed my desires. I agree with you. I'm not sure if every state could pull it off, but once we began this exploration,
it's been amazing to see how much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we culminate now. I can't remember what year we started it, but we started doing a countdown at the end of the year. And I remember when we first went to do it, I was like, I'm not sure if we could pull that off, because I wanted it to be no band doubling up on the list. Well, the first countdown we did had 75 different artists. Mm-hmm. Well, the next one, the show now is 100 different artists at the end of the year, and we pare that list down. So like last year, for instance, we added 150 or 354 different songs from 154 different artists that all came out last year.
And your year-end countdown started in July.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and so then what we were kind of explaining on air too that was so cool is what people got to understand is that this is just kind of in this alternative space.
Right.
This doesn't include all the country music that gets made out here, all the country rock that gets made out here, which we cover the country rock, but then also the hip hop scene. Now we do some hip hop stuff on the show, but we do not cover that extensively. So yeah, this state is very rich with a lot of talent, literally from Bisbee all the way up to Flagstaff is what we've really been discovering. And we continue to discover more, you know, because we solicit on air all the time. Hey, if you're making music out here, send it to us. And we'd love to share it with people. And then we begin building these relationships.
How do people how do people share? How do they get their music on your show?
Email?
Yeah, primary through email. Sometimes they will reach out
Well,
through.
what's the email address?
thearizona411@gmail.com.
Okay.
And and then, or, you know, Instagram is where we're always most available when people want to talk to us and things like that.
That's the Arizona 411 as well. That's the hashtag or the handle there.
And, you know, and then the other side of it too, Tom, when you ask like, you know, do we know these people? No, but over time you begin to build a relationship and people begin to, you know, see your show as a
The
platform
community, kind
and
of.
stuff like that. And another like fun story that I really like to reflect on and talk about is, you know, I've been doing little entertainment things like this my whole adult life here in Tucson. And so I've spent a lot of my life like being known by people and things like that. And you know, that's always been a cool aspect of the job, especially when I was at KFMA, because there was a period when KFMA really like supported, they wanted their jocks to be out there and be big rock stars. And so doing this project, you know, we still get the same kind of, you know, looks and things like that and respect when we go out into public, and it's really fun. But I'll tell you, it was really interesting. We go to a show at Congress to see these bands that are phenomenal. They were playing with some Tucson bands, but the name of the band is Chrome Rhino.
Oh, they're really awesome.
And they're out of Phoenix. And it was so awesome because we go to see the guys. And again, like I said, I've been doing this all my whole life. And so I'm used to like, it was so funny. The guys ran up to Hope.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
And I'm like standing there like, hi, you know, like, how's it going? And,
Oh yeah, you're the other guy on the show.
yeah, right. And then so I'm over there drinking my water, you know, and oh man, this is a good time. And then Hope comes back and she's like, hey, they gave me a bunch of
us a
shirts and some
record.
records.
And Bo's like, hey, can you introduce me to them
Yeah,
later?
hey, Hope, could you get them to sign to Bo on that record for me?
There's definitely when you have guests that have come back for a second round, or you've seen them and now you're interviewing them. It's really interesting where you have it's probably my phone buzzing in the background there. I don't know. Anyway, but it's interesting when you start to have that familiarity because you've seen them or you've experienced with them, and now they're on the show. There's a different level of that intimacy on that call.
No, absolutely, yeah. No, and we love it. Like we've got some interviews coming up with some people that we've talked to in the past, and it's great once you have that repertoire.
Releasing a new album or doing something different, and you can go back to, I remember when this happened. And
Exactly,
you start to
and we had talked about this coming down the pipeline, and it's kind of neat, you know. But every interview, when it's the first time, Hope and I, as we're queuing up the phone, we're always like, I'm kind of nervous.
yeah.
She's like, me too, and I'm like, I don't know why. And
he does the work in the interview.
We've never had anybody. You know, there's some people that'll be a little more flat, but we've never had anybody be rude to us.
Yeah,
but
no,
we always
everyone's very sweet.
what if this is the one? You know?
you come from a place of respect, and that's it might not be. I would imagine for many of the artists, it's not their strength is not in promoting their albums. They're there to make the music,
Yeah.
and so they're uncomfortable. and your style of interview, I kind of relate to this. I think it's casual but pointed. You know, you're not just randomly talking about things. You have an agenda in your mind, and you've had it kind of planned out, but it's also not scripted, and they can just be themselves. Yeah. And you play off of them a lot. And it's not just, you know, if they're flat, you create a little bit of energy in that you ask that right question that triggers something, and all of a sudden that flatness turns to excitement.
He's a pro.
Yeah, he's very good at it.
Well, but that also, she knows, because when I first started out, it was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But that's, you know, that to me is a testament to like our love for the show is that we push ourselves to try and be good at this, not for any commercial sake, other than to do something that we really enjoy. And you absolutely use the right word. It's because we respect both the artists and then the platform that, you know, we're putting together for them. Absolutely. And we don't want to mishandle it so that they're like, God, those guys.
Those guys.
Yeah, amateurs over there.
You want them to hand you albums when you show up to
right. Well, and mostly
not kick you out the list.
Mostly we want to be able to you know, talk to them again down the road. And we've had really great success with that, I think.
So the show's the Arizona 411. It's on Downtown Radio, 99.1 FM, streaming at downtownradio.org across the globe. When does your show originally? I know it's been rebroadcast a few times. When does it originally go out?
Thursday airs 5 to 7.
Okay.
So, and then it does a replay on Saturday.
And there's Thursdays. I mean, Downtown Radio just in general, it just impresses the heck out of me. But Thursdays is one of those lineups that's just, it's just strong.
Yeah, I agree. We love the follow-up to our show. You know, Mike and then Spike Geist coming on before us. We feel like we've got some of the best lead in and coming out, you know.
Well, the Musical Bum introduces my show, so I'm pretty lucky there I got DJ Bank doing that for me on Sundays. No, you know, just no competition. Everybody loves each other, but we're just, when you look at a lineup, it's hard to find a better lineup across the board than Downtown Radio.
Definitely.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I love all the additions that have happened over the last year.
It's wonderful.
And there's like a level of professionalism that seems to have added too. More people that have a background similar to yours or have a structure to their show. What about the interviews? Are they housed anywhere? Do you keep those? Do those get put out into the world, or are they just on the show?
You know, and that's one of those things where it's like with more time. But yes, we actually do podcast them, and it's so neat, you know what I mean? Because that we can podcast because we don't need to have licensing for anything like that. And so we do have it podcasted. If you just search on any of the podcast sites, the Arizona 411 interviews.
Okay.
And so but the problem is that, you know, you have children and jobs and all this stuff. And so I've got it updated up to a certain point, but I'm not sure if I added any of the interviews last year. But I'm going to get better at that. But that is a really neat resource because that distributes to like YouTube and iHeartRadio and all these different places, Apple Podcasts. And so it is out there.
Yeah, I think that's something. No offense, but you need to get going on that.
That's gotta get forward.
That's some important stuff there. And, it needs to get out in the world because your interviews are really thorough. They're good, and they highlight not just the talent in Arizona, but I think the passion that creates all of that art. These artists, when they come on and they talk, you can hear in their voices how their struggles, what they've overcome. You know, sometimes it's their first album and they're just giddy. Sometimes it's their fifth album and they're still giddy about the new album, right? So.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by all this because, like I said, I've been around music and entertainment, but the idea of getting all those things to come together and make that sound, it's like that. It's still fascinating to me to this day, all the decision making that goes on with all of that, you know, simple pluck of a guitar and a drum hit and everything else. It's like, dang, dude, this is crazy.
It's pretty brave, too.
It's awesome.
You know, it's like, you put those vocals there, it really works, but I wouldn't have thought to do that, you know?
No, absolutely.
Well, it's the Arizona 411, the Arizona 411. It's on Downtown Radio. We can see some of the archived interviews on podcasting platforms. We can connect with you through Instagram, the Arizona 411 at gmail.com. all of these places we can connect. And I hope if you haven't listened that you go check it out and see the quality of show you put together, but also the quality of music that Arizona puts together. And I'm incredibly grateful. I joke about it, but you are one of those sort of iconic shows that, as I got involved with Downtown Radio, was incredibly impressed with the style and the professionalism. It just gets better, show after show. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So much for having us, Tom.
All right. Well, this has been another exciting episode of Life Along the Streetcar on Downtown Radio 99.1 FM, and then podcasting out into the world on all kinds of platforms that you can find us. And just invite you to head over to lifealongthestreetcar.org for past shows, which we're updated through all of our shows, Bo. I'm just saying. And you get the audio, the video. We want to thank Ryan Hood for allowing us to play their intro music, or their music, while we intro and exit the show. And it just doesn't get done without our executive producer, James Portis. My name's Tom Heath. I am your host, and I look forward to chatting with you on the next upcoming episode of Life Along the Streetcar. Tune in every week, and until the next time, stay curious, Tucson.